Welcome back to the Association Podcast, Episode 3. I am your host, Jackson Groff. Honored to bring back CEO Taylor Barton and 24/7 Sports National Recruiting Editor Brandon Huffman. Gentlemen, today is the first event preview of the season. First tournament of the 22 season is this Saturday, the Space Needle Shootout in Seattle, Washington. Huff, this is a huge tournament for the season. Lots of top talent in various states across the West Coast.
Yeah, I mean, this is as good of a top, January 7-on-7 tournament the state's ever seen. I know in years past when the Northwest 7-on-7 Association had Winter League, you would have some good teams, but that first tournament where you're drawing players and teams from Oregon and Washington. I think last year, TV, the event you did in Yakima, the first big event, the end of January, you had a team from Northern California that ended up having 3 top 247 kids. Now you have another team from Northern California that has 3 of the top 4 players in the Bay Area alone in 2023 coming up. So I think last year was a good one. This year is going to be a great one. And I'll tell you what, man, aside from the fact this is my first weekend home in 2022, I'd much rather be in Hawaii where I was for the last week weather-wise, but I'm looking forward to the talent that I'm going to get to see this weekend.
Yeah, you definitely substituted the sunglasses for some nice reading glasses there. I see Brandon. We will get back to Brandon on those programs. But Taylor, let's talk about the under-the-radar programs that will make some noise this weekend.
Well, and there definitely are some, and they're going to need to play really well. You know, Huff mentioned it. I mean, you got 3 of the top 4 Bay Area players. I think you got 15 of the top 20 players from the state of Washington. I think it was Huff 7 of the top 10 from Oregon. So, I mean, it is like almost an embarrassment of riches of the talent that is going to be in this. And it's so exciting because, you know, it's being run here in the Northwest, where events like this in the past were run in Vegas or LA or Texas. I mean, this is in Seattle, this in the Northwest. So, you know, everyone from the Northwest can take a lot of pride that we've all been part of building this. And it's pretty exciting. And I think for the top programs, they come in with expectations of you know, being in the semifinals, the championship, winning it. There's a lot of other programs that you mentioned are kind of under the radar programs. They're new, or they're building up and growing, and it's exciting to see. You know, just we have 28 teams just in the high school division for this tournament. There's 70 teams total in the tournament, which is the largest in the history of the Northwest. But some of those programs, you got Next Level, Sean Ridley out of Olympia, Washington. You talk about a guy doing it the right way. He's grown his program from 1 team a couple years ago to they got 5 teams at all the different divisions this year. They got 1 in the high school division. You got Northwest Fusion. Dennis Sablon's done a great job. Last couple years, they've been really good. They had Kakoa Vesperis, who's a quarterback at Eastern Washington now, that took them to championship games and actually won a tournament last year. So very talented. Gridiron, based out of Washington, DeQuinn Evans, getting that program going. They've been doing some 11 on. Now they're jumping into 7 on and 5 on. They got a middle school team, but they got a high school team, and they're going to have some talent. You got the Immortals. Giovanni Hansbrough, he's a Florida native coming out to the Northwest and trying to build up his program and bring that Southern mentality. They got 2 teams in it, and you know they're going to have talent for sure. You got the Spartans, which is a Issaquah, Sammamish based team, and I think they're going to be just really disciplined and play well together. They're going to be one of those teams. They're in zone coverage. They're going to be right in the spot they're supposed to be in. So I think they'll play well as a team. Talent-wise, you know, they're gonna have to make up for that with some discipline and schemes. You got Northwest Wolfpack. Cody Oakes runs that program out of Bellingham, Washington, and has done a great job. They've got some talent. They've been really good in Winter League so far. So I think they're going to surprise some people in this tournament. You got GrindTime. Aaron Woods down in Portland, Oregon. He's grown a monster down there. He's got 5 teams now at all the different age divisions. They have 2 in the high school division. You know, they had Darius Clemens in their program last year. He was a big-time 4-star recruit. So Aaron is a really intense guy, does a great job. And then you got ICE. Derek Watson runs that program out of Bellingham, Washington. They've got 6 teams throughout all the age divisions, 2 in the high school division. So those are all the programs that maybe aren't household names to everyone yet. And I say yet because some of them will be, some of them are emerging as that. So it's exciting because the more blue blood programs that Huff's going to talk on in a sec, most people know those, but they had to get their start somewhere. So it's fun to see the dynamic in a tournament like this of who you expected to be really good and then who just kind of creeps up and all of a sudden is making a quarterfinal or a semifinal. And every single year we see teams and programs that do that. So I don't think this year is going to be any different.
Yeah, and the Space Needle Shootout is one tournament that you can create a name for you and yourself and your team for sure. But back to you, Huff. Let's talk about some of the top programs that will be at this tournament. First three that I want to talk about, two of them are out of Washington, two top-tier programs, FSP and AIR, as well as KT Prep making the long travels out of California.
Yeah, and the first thing I want to say before I get to that is if you're a grown man and you run one of these programs and we don't mention you, I swear to God, do not tweet we're sleeping on you. You are a grown man. Do not tweet that we're sleeping on you, okay? And your players, the one way to ensure that I'm going to become a freaking oversleeper narcoleptic is to tweet that we're sleeping on you. Judas Priest, don't tweet that. And if you're the leader of the program, if you tweet it, you can ensure that you're giving me zero reason to watch you play on Saturday or Sunday. I don't care if you make it to the championship game. I will go sit in my car and listen to the AFC or NFC championship game to avoid being put to sleep by you because we're sleeping on you. Can you tell that I miss the sun and the sand and the 80-degree weather and all that?
Yeah, where'd Hawaii and Huff go? I
was so much cooler then. Now I'm relying on my Starbucks. Yeah, so after reminding you, I said what I said and I mean what I said. What I'm trying to say is that there's going to be a lot of talent at this event between, FSP and AIR and KT Prep. You're looking at, in the state of Washington alone, there are going to be, I believe it was 15 of the top 20 players in the state of Washington in the 2023 class, 3 of the top 4 players in the 2024 class. From Northern California, you have 3 of the top 4 players in the Bay Area in the 2023 class, including a top 50 player, a top 5 quarterback nationally, a commit to Notre Dame. And, those are just the Washington and the NorCal teams coming. And those are just those 3 particular programs. So, really the thing that I'm most excited to see, though, is that you have the number 1 player in the state for both Washington and Oregon coming to the event for the 2023 class, and then the top player in Northern California. So that's a good representation when, you're doing a tournament with 3 states represented. Northern California should be its own state, but that's another story for another day. Washington and Oregon, you have the top underclassmen in each state. That should tell you the level of the talent that we're going to be expecting on Saturday. So first, with FSP, Jayden Wayne, he was the number 1 player in the state of Washington, number 1 prospect in the Northwest. He plays tight end for them. He's probably a defensive lineman long-term. He's ranked as a defensive lineman. You've got Caleb Presley, who is one of the top DBs nationally. You've got Gabarri Johnson, who's the top quarterback in the Northwest. Jayden Limar, the top running back in the Northwest. And then you got a pair of tight ends that are going to be in this tournament. Dorian Thomas and Cooper Jensen, both top 10 players in the state of Washington, both committed to Oregon State. Then you got some DBs that I really like. This is going to be one of the best DB classes in the state that we've seen in a long time. Between AIR and FSP, you got Caleb Presley, you got Jasiah Wagoner. Both those guys have already been selected to play in the All-American Bowl. You have Jonathan Landry, Andre Piper Jordan, and then flipping over obviously to Northern California and the Bay Area team with KT Prep. You've got a top 5 quarterback nationally in Jaden Rashada, already an All-American. You've got Rashid Williams, who's his teammate at Pittsburgh High School, a 4-star receiver himself. And then you got Cooper Flanagan. He's a top 100 player nationally in 2023, committed to Notre Dame. This is a player that Nate Kenyon, when he was a freshman, had only played freshman ball. Julian Kenyon, who's the director of player personnel for KT Prep, introduced him to me at a tournament and said, Huff, this is a kid you're going to need to know. He was a 6'3", probably, 190 pounds. But you could tell this kid had the makings, and he's got a lacrosse background, and now he's headed to the University of Notre Dame to play football. A big time part of their 2023 class, which would be the first class that Marcus Freeman actually recruits to Notre Dame. Now, he committed to Brian Kelly, but he stayed solid in his commitment to Notre Dame. So he's another guy that I'm eager to see. And then there's some other guys on that roster with KT Prep that I'm eager to see. Luke Duncan, who is probably one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the Bay Area. He'll be there along with Jaden Rashada. Those two will split duties. Robbie Mascheroni, who's a team, plays in the Bay Area as well, has already got an early ACC offer from Virginia. You've got Khai Taylor, who is one of the best ball skills DBs in Northern California. You've got Izzy Polk, who his brother just declared for the NFL draft. I think he led the SEC in receptions at Mississippi State. Izzy gets overshadowed at times by Rashid Williams being on that team playing opposite him. But there's going to be a really strong contingent of talent there from KT Prep. And then another name I want to know. He's in the freshman division, but I saw him, and I never comment about middle schoolers. But knowing KT's history with tight ends, you and I talked about him at the event, at the battle, or whatever the event was in March, Taylor, down in Olympia. He was playing with the 8th grade team, a kid named Tony Keck. He's a 2025 kid. I think he's at Hercules High School in the Bay Area. But even as an 8th grader, you could see this kid's the next big time tight end that's coming from the East or from the East Bay. And he's a guy that, even though he's in the freshman division, that's the name to know. So there's a nice history of tight ends. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of these matchups where you get some of these linebackers matched up against these tight ends. But I'm looking forward to the elite DBs that the Northwest has. We didn't even mention Gabe Tahir and Kyle Chen that are on Team Lillard, Demarcus Houston, who's on Big 12 Performers, and the amount of receivers here. So there's going to be a lot of games within the games.
There's a lot of teams that will be facing each other on their certain strength. On the outside with receivers and DBs, inside with the tight end, the linebackers and safeties. So definitely excited to see that one. As we keep moving on with the top programs, you mentioned Lillard, Big 12 MVP, and then a dark horse that Taylor said last episode, 253 Elite, if you wanted to talk about those as well.
Yeah, I think, with 253 Elite, they remind me a little bit of the South Sound Storm, and that, these guys have been playing together for so long, and, we've been seeing them win tournaments since they were, and, like I said, I don't usually watch the middle school or the elementary school matchups or the youth matchups, but I will watch the championship game. And I remember 253 winning a tournament when these guys were probably, 6th grade, 7th grade. And I think Luke Elliott was the quarterback for the team then. Well, now you throw in all the talent he's got around him. And, Luke is the 7-on-7 gamer. I mean, the kid is out there with the swagger. He's like a redheaded Baker Mayfield he scores and he's doing the dance up and down the field. And as a Baker Mayfield fan, I had to get that in. But, Unterrio Latin-Henley, another kid in the 2024 class that played his freshman year at Eastside Catholic, transferred to, I want to say, Washington High School in Tacoma for his sophomore year, but has a handful of offers. He's playing with them. So they're that dark horse that maybe they don't have, a program that goes from 3rd grade to 12th grade, but these guys have been playing together for a few years. They've won some tournaments, and they're going to be a team that's going to cause some problems.
Definitely are. And so they're kind of that dark horse team that, is trying to enter blue blood status. Not quite there. I think winning this tournament or making the championship definitely would vault them up. Jackson Huff mentioned Lillard, Big 12, and MVP as well. I know with those three, they are all blue bloods, all a lot of talent. Jamar Howard does a great job with Big 12 out of the Vancouver area, Southwest Washington and Oregon. Houston Lillard and Rashad Carter do a great job with Team Lillard. And then Matt Quinn does a great job with MVP, which is out of Eugene, Oregon, Lillard out of Portland, Oregon. So maybe talk about those 3 teams and some of the players on them.
So Lillard, probably their top 2 players this year, though, are guys from the Tri-Cities in Kyle Chen and in Gabe Tahir. Both those guys actually were in Penn State this weekend, in Happy Valley this weekend for an unofficial visit. Both have offers from Penn State. So that should show you with Terry Smith, a longtime DB coach at Penn State, who was a Pennsylvania high school coaching legend, with him coming all the way out to the West Coast to offer those 2 guys that are both from the state of Washington. It goes back to what I was saying earlier about the DB class in 2023 in Washington being really special. Big 12 performer, Riley Williams. He's the number 1 player in the state of Oregon. He's a top 100 player nationally, an All-American already. I got a chance to go down to the Clackamas Portland Central Catholic game that was a nationally televised ESPN game, and Riley stole the show. He had 2 touchdowns in the first half. That kind of broke a stalemate. And, he's an elite pass catcher, offers from all over the country. There's been a number of schools that have gone through Central Catholic, as they're known to do every year. But a number of schools have gone by to Central Catholic just to go see Riley Williams. Demarcus Houston, who's the number 3 player in the state of Oregon in the 2023 class, a DB out of Albany. I think he's out of West Albany, has an offer from Oregon State. His dad played at Oregon State. He's a DB for them that I think is worth watching, most definitely worth watching. And then, you look at MVP. I mean, between AJ Pugliano, who's a top 100 kid in 2024, a top 100 player in the national rankings. He's the number 2 player in the state for 2024 in Oregon. Already has a handful of offers, including both of the in-state Pac-12 schools. Both those programs, obviously recruit nationally, and it's very rare. It's interesting because I know, Taylor, you're an Oregon guy, but it's very rare that both Oregon and Oregon State offer the same in-state kids. Usually, Oregon State will offer more than Oregon will. Oregon recruits nationally, but the guys that do when he's got both offers from the in-state schools as a sophomore, and that's what AJ Pugliano has. So, those are some guys to keep an eye on, I think, from the state of Oregon or from the Tri-Cities that are playing for kind of the 3 Oregon-based teams.
Taylor and Huff, you guys have looked at the schedule already. Who are some marquee matchups you are excited to watch on Saturday?
You had to do this to me, Taylor, and I'm going to hate you on Saturday night when I can't feel my toes or my fingers. But the last game on Saturday in pool play, the 8:15 game between KT Prep Money and Lillard Platinum, is the game that I've got circled as one that I think is going to be fun. And why is that? Well, I already mentioned Gabe Tahir and Kyle Chen a little bit earlier, but you're going to get to see Gabe Tahir and Kyle Chen against the receiving duo of Rashid Williams and Israel Polk, plus Zachary Card, who got his first offer from UMass a couple weeks ago, and then Jaden Rashada, who's the top quarterback in Northern California, a top 5 quarterback nationally. And I love matchups where you get to see an elite corner against an elite elite multiple DBs against an elite quarterback and elite receivers. That, it's fun when you get a tight end and a linebacker that are both good, but let's be honest, 7-on-7 isn't about 5, 7, 12 yards. We're going deep. We're going vert the whole time. And that matchup will give us that opportunity. I will say I'm only going to be mad because of the temperature, but that's the kind of game that you stick around till the end for, because you say probably, I think, the best pool play matchup for last.
Yeah. And the one of the other ones that stood out to me was MVP Red versus Big 12 Performance Black. And so you have MVP Red, their top team out of Eugene, Oregon. You mentioned the AJ and some of the top players there, Brock Thomas at quarterback throwing for them. And then with Big 12 Performance, Jamar Howard out of Southwest Washington, Oregon, with, the number 1 player in Oregon, Riley Williams, and then some of the other horses they got in the stables there. That'll be a fun one. And that's some bragging rights, down that little I-5 corridor that they're not too far from each other. So that's another one that for pool play kind of stood out to me. And the fun thing is, once pool play is done and everyone gets seated and the Sunday matchups for elimination round get going, it's going to be intense. And this is a tournament where sometimes you're waiting until the quarters, semis, until it's a really challenging game for some of these teams. I mean, elimination rounds from game 1, people are going to have to bring their A game or else they're going to get knocked off.
Definitely some exciting matchups there for the pool play, but let's move on to what everyone is looking forward to. The one that you might get some hate on, you might get some love on at the end of the day, the championship predictions. Who are some of your guys' championship predictions and who do you think will win it all?
All right. For my championship prediction, I'm taking the route that Kirk Herbstreit and Bruce Feldman go. Whenever they're covering a game, they refuse to give a prediction on it. So I am going to politically step away from the prediction game on this one and just say, I'm here to watch good football this weekend.
Man, I'll tell you what, when you decide you want to walk away from covering recruiting, politics is like half a step away from you, because that was a beautiful politically correct answer. So here's what I'll do, Jackson. I don't care. I'm stupid like that. So I get hate text and DMs and all that anyway. So I'll take it and run with it. I'm going to say semifinal matchup is the 4 teams are going to be Air Black, I'm going to say Lillard Platinum.
Ooh.
I'm going to say FSP Blue Chip, and I'm going to say KT Prep's top team. And in those semifinals, not exactly sure how it's going to exactly be lined up, but I'm going to say the championship game is FSP Blue Chip against KT Prep, and I think KT Prep takes it down and walks away out of the Northwest with all the heavy hitters in the region. They take the hardware back to the Bay Area.
Well, I am so excited for the tournament. That will be a wrap. Space Needle Shootout preview. For those who are interested in watching, pool play begins at 9 a.m. with 3rd and 4th grade, ends at 9 p.m. with high school on Saturday. Stop on by to watch the future of college football perform. But if you are not able to, don't worry, because if you stay up to date with updates and posts on our Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, it will be like you were there in person. So for Brandon Huffman and Taylor Barton, I'm Jackson Groff. We will see you this weekend.